Victor Reaperstone was bone-tired, the kind of exhaustion that settles into your muscles and makes every mile feel like 10. He'd been riding for 8 hours straight. Nothing but desert highway, flat horizon, and the endless hum of his Harley beneath him. 8:15 p.m. Highway rest stop on I-10. 20 miles outside El Paso, Texas. He just wanted coffee, maybe a sandwich. Then back on the road, that's when he heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Faint, rhythmic, desperate, knocking. Coming from somewhere nearby, Victor stopped walking, tilted his head, listened. There, a large moving truck parked 3 spaces over. White and blue. Logo on the side, Grace Mission Ministry. Cross symbol, dove, sunshine, hope, all the right images. The knocking came again. More urgent, Victor walked toward the truck. The knocking stopped. He stood there, waiting, listening. Then, a small voice from inside. "Hello? Is someone there?" Victor's blood went cold. He followed the sound to an air vent on the side of the truck, low to the ground, metal grating covering it. "Double quotes, kid, where are you?" Victor asked quietly. "I'm locked in the back. There are 5 of us. Please, they're taking us across the border tonight. We cross at midnight. Once we're in Mexico, we disappear forever." Victor pulled out his phone, checked the time. 8:17 p.m., midnight border crossing. That meant 3 hours and 43 minutes. "What's your name, kid?" "Carlos. Carlos Mendez. I'm 9 years old. They took me from school this morning." Victor knelt down closer to the vent. "Carlos, my name is Victor Stone. I'm with the Steel Wolves Motorcycle Club, and I promise you, you are not crossing that border tonight if you believe he's going to save them in time." Comment, "Save them right now." Victor didn't move from that truck. He stood there, waiting, watching the rest stop entrance. 15 minutes later, the automatic doors slid open. A couple walked out, mid-40s clean, pressed clothes. Him, khaki pants, polo shirt, wedding ring. Her floral dress, cross necklace, warm smile. Behind them, 3 children. Ages maybe 7 to 10. Walking in a line, heads down, silent. Too silent. Victor approached. "Excuse me, is that your truck?" The woman turned with a bright smile. "Yes, we're with Grace Mission Ministry. We're relocating these precious children to our orphanage in Juarez. They're getting a fresh start, away from drugs, gangs, broken homes." She pulled out paperwork. Legal guardianship forms. Church credentials. Mexican orphanage registration. Photos of the facility, children smiling in classrooms. Everything looked legitimate. Everything looked right. But Victor had spent 22 years reading people in situations where reading them wrong could get you killed. The kids wouldn't make eye contact. One girl had sleeves pulled down over her wrists, but he caught a glimpse of fresh bruises. Finger-shaped Carlos. The boy who'd whispered through the vent made brief eye contact with Victor. Pure terror. A silent scream. "Please, remember. Help." The man smiled at the children. "Kids, are you happy to go to your new home?" All 5 children answered in perfect unison, robotically. "Yes, sir. Trained. Perfectly trained. Say the wrong thing, punishment." They'd learned to perform. Victor nodded slowly. "That's great. Real great. Safe travels." The Parkers loaded the children back into the truck, smiled, waved, started the engine. Victor was already dialing. "Bennett, it's Victor Stone. I've got a trafficking situation. Rest stop on I-10, mile marker 47. 5 kids. Moving truck. Grace Mission Ministry. They're headed for the border. Midnight crossing. That's 3 hours from now." Detective Claire Bennett typed quickly. "Give me the names. It's Mr. and Mrs. Parker. License plate Charlie Romeo at 529. A tense silence. Then Bennett's frustrated voice. "Victor, Grace Mission Ministry, is real. Registered 501c3. The Parkers have clean records. Multiple successful adoption placements. Their paperwork is legitimate. Bennett, one of those kids asked me for help through an air vent, and why won't he say it to my face? Victor, I can't stop legal guardians from traveling with their wards unless a child says they're in danger. And if they won't speak up, my hands are tied. Then I guess we do this the hard way. Victor made 3 more calls. Viper, Wraith, Diesel, 4 others. 20 minutes later, the rest stop parking lot filled with the thunder of engines. 7 Harleys. 7 men. 7 brothers who'd just dropped everything. Viper dismounted first, his massive frame casting a long shadow. What have we got, Reaper? 5 kids. Fake missionaries. Headed for the border. Midnight crossing. 2 hours and 48 minutes. Wraith already had his laptop out. Give me the organization name, Grace Mission Ministry. On it. The steel wolves mounted up. Plan was simple. Follow the truck, gather evidence, find a legal way to stop them. But Mr. Parker had seen the bikers. Saw 7 men in leather vests watching his truck. His smile disappeared. He grabbed his wife's arm, whispered something. They loaded up fast and pulled out of the rest stop 15 minutes early. Headed south. Fast 7 Harleys followed at a distance. Keeping visual contact but not spooking them further, Wraith's voice crackled over the radio. Reaper, I found something. Grace Mission Ministry is real, but 16 children they've relocated in the past 2 years, none of them have any records in Mexican orphanages. They crossed the border and vanished. This isn't an orphanage. It's a pipeline. Victor's jaw tightened. How do we prove it? I found something else. One of those 5 kids? Carlos Mendez, age 9. Reported missing from El Paso Elementary School this morning. Amber Alert was just issued 30 minutes ago. Everything changed. Call Bennett. Now, we've got a confirmed kidnapping victim. That's probable cause. She can stop them legally. Bennett answered immediately. Victor? Carlos Mendez. 9 years old. Amber Alert active. He's in that truck. That's your probable cause. If Carlos is in that vehicle, we can stop them. But Parker will deny it. The kids won't speak up. We need them to volunteer the truth. Victor's voice was firm. Then give me 5 minutes alone with those kids before you move in. That's not protocol, Victor Bennett. 2 hours. 5 kids. And a border crossing that ends everything. Sometimes protocol loses. Please, a long exhale. 5 minutes. Not a second more. Comment Brotherhood if you know they're about to stop this. Bennett coordinated with Border Patrol. Set up a routine inspection checkpoint 10 miles north of the border. 10:47 p.m. 1 hour and 13 minutes until midnight. Red and blue lights cut through the darkness. Highway checkpoint. 3 state police units. Border Patrol backup. And 7 Harleys parked in the shadows. The Grace Mission Ministry. Truck rolled to a stop. Bennett approached the driver's window. Sir, ma'am, this is a routine inspection. I'm going to need to see your license, registration, and documentation for your passengers. Mr. Parker remained calm, confident. Of course, officer. We're missionaries. We have all our paperwork. These children are legally in our care. He pulled out a folder, handed it over. I understand, sir. Just need to verify everything. Bennett stalled, buying time. While Bennett checked paperwork at the driver's window, Victor walked to the back of the truck. 5 children sat on the floor, backs against the wall, silent, terrified. Perfectly controlled. Victor spoke loudly enough for all to hear. My name is Victor Stone. I'm with the Steel Wolves Motorcycle Club, 45 minutes ago. Someone in this truck asked me for help. I'm here because I don't break promises. If any of you want to tell the truth, now is the time. These police officers will protect you, but you have to speak up. I can't do it for you. Silence. 10 seconds. 20. 30 seconds of painful silence. Then the smallest girl, maybe 7 years old, whispered, My name is not Rebecca. My name is Lucia. They took me from the park yesterday. The dam broke. Carlos's voice came rushing out. I'm Carlos Mendez. They grabbed me after school. Another boy, maybe 8. They hit us if we don't say the right things. They hurt us when we cry. A girl with brown braids crying now. There are more kids. In Mexico, they're waiting for us. They said we'd never see our families again. The oldest boy, maybe 10, pleading, please don't let them take us. My mom doesn't even know I'm gone. They told the school I was sick. Please. Bennett moved immediately. Mr. and Mrs. Parker, you're under arrest. Kidnapping. Human trafficking. Conspiracy to transport minors across international borders. You have the right to remain silent. Mr. Parker tried to run. The steel wolves formed a wall. 7 bikes. 7 men blocking every exit. No escape. Mrs. Parker's voice cracked, desperate now. We were helping them. These children have no future here. Their families can't take care of them. The families in Mexico? Bennett cut her off coldly. The families in Mexico that don't exist. We already checked. There is no orphanage at the address you provided. Just an abandoned warehouse. So where were you really taking them? Mr. Parker's face went pale. He knew they were caught. I want a lawyer. You'll get one. After we process you for federal crimes. Bennett turned to her officers. Get them in cuffs. Read them their rights. I want everything documented. When they searched the truck more thoroughly, they found a locked metal case hidden under blankets. Wraith picked the lock in 30 seconds. Inside, a laptop, burner phones, fake identification documents for all 5 children with different names and birth dates. Wraith booted up the laptop right there in the parking lot, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Victor watched over his shoulder as files began appearing on screen. What they found made Victor's stomach turn. Records of 47 children, over 4 years. Each entry had a photo. Real name, fake name, pickup location, drop-off location, and a price. The prices ranged from $8,000 to $15,000 depending on age and gender. But it wasn't just numbers. There were messages. Communications between Mr. Parker and at least 12 different buyers across Mexico, Guatemala, and Honduras. Negotiations, delivery confirmations, requests for specific types of children. One message from 3 weeks ago read, Need blonde girl. 7 to 9 years old, for client in Monterey. Willing to pay premium? Can you source by month end? Parker's response, have one lined up. Pickup scheduled for next week. We'll confirm delivery date. That blonde girl was Lucia. The 7-year-old currently wrapped in a blanket, being checked by EMTS.WRAITH, pulled up a spreadsheet, dates, locations, amounts, the Parkers. Had made over $600,000 in 4 years. Children sold like merchandise. Bennett stared at the screen, her hands shaking. He kept trophies. He kept their pictures, their real names, everything. Like they were accomplishments. Like this was a business ledger. Victor's voice was cold, controlled rage barely contained. How long was he doing this? Bennett scrolled through the files. The earliest case I found was 4 years ago. A 6-year-old boy from Phoenix? But there are notes suggesting he'd been involved in smaller operations before that. There could be more we don't know about, Wraith pointed at the screen. Look at this. He's part of a network. There are at least 5 other people doing the same thing in different states. They share information, coordinate pickups, refer clients to each other. This is organized, professional. Victor leaned closer. The names on screen meant nothing to him now, but they would soon mean everything to law enforcement. This wasn't just taking down 2 traffickers. This was cracking open an entire operation. Bennett pulled out her phone. I need to call the FBI. This is bigger than state jurisdiction now. Type justice if this moment hit you hard. Carlos's parents arrived at 1:30 a.m. Driving 90 miles per hour from El Paso the moment they got the call. His mother, Elena Mendez, saw him through the police car window and collapsed to her knees on the cold asphalt. Just fell. Couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Just sobbed. Carlos's father, Miguel Mendez, could barely stand. His hands shook so violently he couldn't even open the car door. Tears streamed down his face. An officer had to help him out. The moment they released Carlos from the vehicle, he ran. ran like his life depended on it, straight into his mother's arms. She caught him, held him, and they both crumpled to the ground together. A tangle of arms and tears and relief and trauma and love. Miguel fell beside them, wrapping his arms around both of them, his body shaking with sobs. Mi hijo. Mijo. Gracias a Dios. Thank God. Thank God. Alina pulled back just enough to look at Carlos's face, touching his cheeks, his hair, his shoulders, like she needed to confirm he was real. Baby, are you hurt? Did they hurt you? Carlos shook his head, but his voice cracked. I was so scared, Mama, I thought I'd never see you again. They said I was going to Mexico and I'd disappear forever. Never, Alina whispered fiercely, pulling him close again. Never, baby. You're safe. You're home. We're never letting you go. Carlos looked back at Victor through his tears. Victor stood 20 feet away, giving the family space, but the boy pointed at him. The biker saved me, Papa. The scary biker with the tattoos. I knocked on the truck, and he heard me. He promised he wouldn't let them take me, and he kept his promise. Miguel looked at Victor, this huge man in leather and patches who looked like everything the media warned you about. And Miguel walked over, tears still streaming, and pulled Victor into a hug. Victor, who hadn't been hugged by a grateful parent in 22 years of living hard, stood stiff for a moment. Then his arms came up, patting the man's back awkwardly. You saved my son, Miguel said, his voice breaking. You saved my boy. How do I ever thank you for that? Victor's voice was rough. You don't. You just keep him safe. That's all the thanks I need. Lena came over, still holding Carlos's hand. She looked up at Victor with red, swollen eyes. They told us we had to wait 24 hours, that he probably just wandered off, that kids do this. But I knew. A mother knows. And no one would listen. Her voice broke. You listened. You believed him when he asked for help. He's a brave kid, Victor said, looking down at Carlos. He saved himself by knocking. I just helped finish the job. Victor stood in the shadows with Wraith and Viper beside him, watching as the other 4 children were reunited with their families over the next hour. Each reunion was the same. Disbelief, collapse, tears, clinging, checking for injuries. More tears. Wraith spoke quietly, his laptop balanced on his bike. 3 of these kids were snatched like Carlos, grabbed from schools, parks, playgrounds. 2 were sold by their own parents, addicts who traded their kids for drug debt. All 5 taken within 72 hours. These people moved fast once they identified targets. Victor stared at the data on the screen, at the names and faces of children who hadn't been as lucky. How many got through before we caught them? Wraith pulled up the full spreadsheet. 47 kids in 4 years. FBI is working on tracking them now. They're coordinating with Mexican authorities, Interpol, ICE. But Victor. Some of those entries are from 2020. Those kids are 13, 14, 15 years old now. They've been gone for years. Who knows what's happened to them? Who knows where they are? The weight of that sat heavy in the parking lot. 47 children. 47 families destroyed. 47 lives stolen. Viper, usually quick with dark humor, was silent. Finally, he said, we got 5 back tonight. That's 5 families that aren't living that nightmare anymore. That counts for something, Victor agreed. It counts. But it's not enough, for Carlos left with his parents. Tucked safely in the back seat of their car, wrapped in his mother's arms, he asked his father to wait. He ran back to Victor. Why did you stop? At the rest stop? Carlos asked, looking up at this big, scary man who'd saved his life. Everyone else just walked past the truck. I could hear people outside, but nobody stopped. You're the only one who listened. Victor knelt down to Carlos's level, making himself smaller. Because 6 months ago, a little girl taught me something important. She taught me that the scariest-looking people can sometimes be the safest. That you can't judge someone by their leather and tattoos. And that if someone asks for help, you stop everything you're doing and you help. No matter what. Carlos's eyes were wide. You did something really brave, Carlos. You knocked on that truck. You whispered for help. You asked a stranger to save you. That took guts. A lot of kids wouldn't have done that. Were you scared? Carlos asked. That you wouldn't get there in time? Victor's voice was honest, raw, terrified. I was scared I wouldn't figure out how to stop them legally, that I wouldn't convince the police in time, that you'd cross that border and I'd lose you, that I'd fail you. He put his hand on Carlos's shoulder. But here's what I learned. Being scared doesn't mean you don't act. It means you act anyway. You were scared, but you knocked. I was scared, but I stayed with that truck. And because we both acted despite being afraid, you're going home tonight. Carlos threw his arms around Victor's neck and hugged him tight. Victor wrapped his arms around this small boy and held him for a long moment. Feeling the kid's heart beating fast, feeling him alive and safe and going home. Thank you, Carlos whispered. Thank you for keeping your promise. 6 months later, Victor got a call he wasn't expecting. The phone rang just as he was finishing a beer at the clubhouse, surrounded by his brothers, celebrating Diesel's birthday. Victor Stone? Yeah, this is FBI Agent Walker. I wanted to update you on the Parker case. Victor stepped outside, away from the noise. I'm listening. Agent Walker's voice carried weight, the kind that comes from working impossible cases and seeing too much. The laptop wraith cracked open. It gave us everything. The entire network. We've made 37 arrests across 6 states and 3 countries. We've dismantled one of the largest child trafficking operations in the Southwest. Victor's chest tightened. What about the kids? The 47 from the files? We've located 31 of them. Agent Walker paused. 31 families have their children back. Some had been gone for years. We found a 15-year-old girl in Guatemala City who'd been missing since she was 11. We found a 12-year-old boy working in a factory in Honduras. He'd been trafficked when he was 8. 31 kids home. What about the other 16? The pause was longer this time. We're still looking. Some of the records were incomplete. Some of the buyers used aliases we haven't cracked yet. And some? Agent Walker's voice softened. Some of the children were sold to people who don't leave traces. But we're not giving up. We'll keep looking until we find every single one, Victor said quietly. Keep looking. There's something else, Agent Walker continued. The Parkers are both facing life without parole. Federal trafficking charges, multiple counts of kidnapping, conspiracy, racketeering. They'll never see daylight again. And because of your initial report and the evidence chain you helped establish, every arrest we made is airtight. These people aren't walking, Victor nodded to himself. That's something. Stone, you and your club saved 5 children that night. But the ripple effect. You saved 31. You shut down an operation that would have kept destroying families for years. I've been doing this job for 17 years, and I've never seen civilians make this kind of impact. After the call ended, Victor stood outside the clubhouse for a long time. Staring at the stars the next week, Victor drove to a community center in Riverside. It was a Saturday, and the place was packed with kids playing basketball, families at picnic tables, laughter echoing across the parking lot. The Steel Wolves had donated money to help renovate the place, turning it from a crumbling building into a safe space for the neighborhood. Carlos was there, healthy and smiling and alive. He'd gained weight, his eyes were bright again, and he was playing soccer with other kids his age. When he saw Victor, his face lit up. Victor? Victor? Carlos ran over, his friends following behind. This is the biker who saved me. He's a hero. Something cracked in Victor's chest, the same way it did every time someone called him that word, hero. For 22 years. He'd been the man people crossed the street to avoid. The guy mothers pulled their children away from. The ex-con with the criminal record and the dangerous friends, and now a little boy was calling him a hero, one of Carlos's friends. A girl about his age looked at Victor with wide eyes. You really saved him from bad guys? Victor knelt down. Carlos saved himself by being brave and smart. I just helped. But you're in a motorcycle gang, another kid said. My mom says those are dangerous. Carlos jumped in. He's in a motorcycle club. And yeah, he looks scary. But he's one of the good guys. The really good guys. Victor's phone rang. He checked the caller ID. Unknown number. He'd learned to always answer those. "Excuse me for a second, kids." He stepped away and answered. Victor Stone. "Mr. Stone, my name is Daniel Foster. I'm calling from Nebraska." The man's voice was strained, desperate. "My daughter vanished from school 3 days ago. She's 16. Police say she's probably a runaway, that teenage girls do this. But I found a note hidden in her room. It says, 'Help. Youth camp is not what they said. They're taking us somewhere else. Tell Dad I love him.'" Daniel's voice broke. "Please. Everyone says wait it out, that she'll come home. But I can't shake this feeling that something's really wrong. Your name came up when I was searching online for people who help with these situations. Can you help me? Will you help me?" Victor looked back at Carlos, playing with his friends, alive and home, because someone had listened when he asked for help. "Mr. Foster, where are you located exactly?" "Omaha, Nebraska. About 8 hours north of you." Victor checked his watch. 2 p.m. "We'll be there by 7. Send me everything you have." The note. Photos of your daughter, the youth camp information, her phone number, her friends' names, all of it. "Text it to this number. Q. God, thank you. I didn't know where else to turn. You turned to the right place? We're coming." Victor walked back to where Viper and Wraith were working on their bikes near the community center. They looked up when they saw his face. "We got another one," Victor said simply. Viper didn't even ask questions. Just nodded and started packing up his tools. "Where?" "Nebraska. 16-year-old girl. Fake youth camp. Multiple victims likely." Wraith closed his laptop. "I'll pull data on youth camps in Nebraska during the drive. See what operations have complaints or sketchy backgrounds." Within 15 minutes, 7 Harleys were assembled in the parking lot. The Steel Wolves, ready to ride. Victor went to say goodbye to Carlos. "You're leaving?" Carlos asked, disappointed. "Another kid needs help," Victor explained. "In Nebraska. A girl named..." He checked his phone for the text that had just come through with a photo. "Ashley Foster. She's 16, and she's in trouble."
Carlos
nodded seriously like he understood. "You're going to save her like you saved me. We're going to try. We'll do it," Carlos said with complete confidence. "Because that's what heroes do." Victor ruffled the kid's hair, mounted his Harley, and looked at his brothers. 7 men. 7 bikes. In 1 year, they'd saved 83 children. 83 families brought back together. 83 lives saved from trafficking, abuse, disappearance. But this time felt different. Every time felt different now. They weren't just riding for territory or reputation or club business anymore. They were riding because somewhere a kid was in trouble. A family was desperate. A child was asking for help. Viper pulled up beside him. "You know, this might be nothing, right? Girl could turn up tomorrow. Could actually be a runaway." Maybe Victor agreed. But what if she's not? What if she's like Carlos, whispering for help and nobody's listening? What if we're the only ones who'll actually look? "Then we look," Viper said simply. "That's what we do now." The 7 Harleys roared to life. A sound that used to mean trouble was coming. Now it meant something else. It meant hope. It meant someone was coming to help. It meant a promise being kept. Victor thought about Carlos's words as they pulled out of the parking lot, heading north toward Nebraska. Heroes, he'd never thought of himself that way. Still didn't really. He was just a guy who'd learned to listen when kids asked for help. Who'd learned that saving one life mattered, even if you couldn't save them all. Because somewhere right now, a kid was knocking on a wall. Slipping a note where they hoped someone would find it. Whispering through an air vent. Texting a desperate message to a parent. Leaving a trail of breadcrumbs and praying someone would follow. And as long as kids were asking for help, the Steel Wolves would answer. Every single time. In truck stop parking lots and highway checkpoints and rest stops at 8 p.m., when most people were too busy or too tired or too scared to get involved, they'd show up. They'd listen. They'd act. Because sometimes the scariest-looking people become the fiercest protectors. Sometimes redemption isn't about erasing who you were, but about choosing who you'll be now. Sometimes being a hero just means keeping a promise to a 9-year-old boy whispering through a vent. And sometimes, when a 16-year-old girl writes help in a hidden note, 7 bikers drop everything and ride 8 hours because that's what heroes do. Even if they don't call themselves that. Even if they're just ex-cons and outlaws trying to do one good thing in a life full of bad choices. The highway stretched ahead. It's endless and empty. 7 bikes, 7 men, riding toward another child who needed them. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red. There was a long night ahead, but the steel wolves didn't mind. This was their mission now. This was what mattered, and they'd keep riding until every voice was heard. Every knock was answered, every child was home. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it everywhere. Comment "not on our watch" if you believe every child deserves a protector. Subscribe because the Steel Wolves mission never ends. There are 16 children still missing from the Parker case alone. 47 total who were trafficked. And we'll keep telling these stories, keep raising awareness, keep fighting until every single one comes home. This is more than entertainment. This is a movement. This is about making sure no child's cry for help goes unanswered. And you're part of it now. Together, we're building a world where kids like Carlos know that someone will always listen, always show up, always fight for them. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. Now let's go find Ashley Foster.